Well, the Formula One 2026 season is upon us. A new team, a new driver, new regulations. But one thing is constant. You need to get the voice for mine of motorsport on. It is this man. He's a star. His name is Greg Rust. Last time I saw him was in his commentary box at the Singapore Grand Prix where he called the socks off that one. Greg Rust, Thrusty, as I know you. Good to see you, great man.
Hello, mate. Great to see you too. And I'm far from a guru like you. You worked around it for a little while. I genuinely love it. I try and soak up as much from the people that are immersed in it. And yeah, mate, I've been coming to Albert Park now since the early 2000s, which is crazy. Singapore, you talk about, I think they're up to maybe 16 iterations of that, and I've done about 12 of them. Yeah, cool. Some cool stuff along the way.
It's a long time ago. We used to work on it at Channel 10 with you and Diffie and Crompton and your lunatic mate Darryl Beattie. But the sport is changing very quickly, isn't it?
We got done one year at Albert Park. Beattie hot rodded a golf cart there. We got in a bit of trouble.
Something's never changed.
Something's never changed. But the sport is changing, as you say. So this is biggest technical reset in a generation, over 10 years. The sport's really good in these moments. Back in around 2014, when they embarked on some pretty significant change around embracing greener technologies, boosting engine output with battery power and so on. They literally, from a blank sheet of paper, some of these engineers and designers came up with groundbreaking things. So this year, cars are shorter, narrower, 30 kilos lighter, a lot cleaner looking too, Howie. So they wanted to create something that wouldn't disturb the air so much around the cars that follow, hopefully generate a bit more passing. DRS system, that we know lots of acronyms in motor racing, right, which drives you mad. That's gone. But the front and rear wings are now active, right? So they can be opened to create less drag, cut the air faster, and closed to generate the downforce and support them in the corners. There is almost a 50-50 split in your traditional combustion engine, like you and I might have in our road cars per se, turbocharged 1.6 litre, and then you have battery support. But the pair of them almost generate the same level of power, and the drivers can use measures in the car during the race to deploy that, to recharge that, and so on. So there's a lot required of the driver this year, and I think people like Oscar Piastri have talked about the added bandwidth that you need to do that. Lewis Hamilton's talked about them being, immensely complex and so on. So those that can think strategically about their race, that have that cool, calm ability to do that, but also to understand how to harness, to regenerate, when to deploy, when to best deploy, and so on. I think they're the ones that are probably going to stand out this year. One thing we haven't mentioned, probably should too, is that fuel is a part of this now. It's got to be a made to a certain set of parameters that are greener, more sustainable, but the teams can venture off with their fuel partners and create something that works for them.
Now, I'm hanging in there. As long as you didn't go in a tyre, because you and I, we have vast disagreements about the interest levels in tyres. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not letting you talk about tyre degradation, or people will be switching off YouTube and never coming back. But, mate,
Love it.
It's a great explanation. Since, as you mentioned, I had the privilege of working on F1, 97, 98, 99, working on the broadcast. And in my whole time working on it, watching it, then working on it with 10 with you, any change is about spicing up the on-track action.
Yep.
So a lot of these changes, as fancy as they are, and the battery power and the wings, are to try and produce closer racing and more overtaking.
Yep.
What do you think?
I'm defaulting to some early comments by the driver. We've obviously had some pre-season testing, right, where we've seen a bit of this in action. Whether, you're compromised because you need to lift and coast to regenerate, what impact that has, and so on. I think Max Verstappen sounds like he's been a bit outspoken about them. The drivers at the end of the day want that pure driving pleasure.
Well, they want to drive flat knacker the whole time.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's not what these cars are going to do.
No, but at the end of the day, you cover lots of different sports. They are competitive animals,
Yep.
right? And they're given a set of parameters. They will play to those set of parameters, and may the best team and driver win.
The parameters are so important, and I think the exciting thing about it, Rusty, is it's a technological revolution, which we see in Formula One. So you have a look at testing, and there's so many different variables. But I reckon it was for one lap. Ferrari rolled this is beyond my technical expertise, which is not saying much, basically a 180-degree reversible wing.
This is like getting out the roast chicken rotisserie at the Howie household for a barbecue, right? So it was spotted in the second test at Bahrain, and there are more elements to it than that, but that's the most visual one, right? So you're right, it goes 180 degrees, lots of people talking about it in the paddock. Basically, it can turn itself upside down to assist the way that it cuts the air, make the car quicker. I love the way that they have exploited a loophole here. And there are people that spend their entire year sifting through the sports rules, their new regulations, what can we do differently here, and so on. So their car is slightly more elongated, which makes this possible, what they're using, right? And
don't start to bore me.
No, I'm not going to.
Don't start to draw.
But there are other elements that make this, on paper, effective, right? So it seems to comply. Some rivals are saying, is this thing too heavy? Is it too complex? Will it be troublesome? Why have others not done it so far? And so on. Is it a bit of a kind of smokescreen while you're looking over here and fascinated by this thing that they're doing that maybe is just a toy for the testing?
Do you reckon they're going to run it? Do you reckon we could see it in Melbourne? They only ran it for literally 1 or 2 laps.
They've experimented with it. I'd kind of be surprised if they don't. Yeah. But when you've got they're a business about finding new ways of doing things. You don't just look at it and go, oh well, that's the way we've always done it in the past, or that's what history shows. It's like, how can we totally upend this and try something different?
Well, this is going back to the old Tyrrell six-wheeler. Like, this is how revolutionary we're talking. David Coulthard had some thoughts on this reversible wing. This is what he had to say on his Up to Speed podcast.
It could be a complete distraction technique. They've had this in the as a little side project. Now other teams go and spend time looking at whether it works in CFD, which is the computational fluid dynamics, putting design team onto looking at it, which means they're then not utilising that resource to develop their own car.
That's another thing banned on this podcast. We're not talking CFD. We're not talking wind tunnels or fluid dynamics. Okay?
We're going to put you in a wind tunnel one day.
Well, that's I got reduced drag, I reckon. I'll be okay. Hey, Audi's coming in with the Revolut F1 team, which is fantastic. Again, new teams enter.
Yep.
It's difficult. We're going to see the same with Cadillac.
Yep.
But Audi are a massive mark. They're not coming on with a cut price operation here. How do we think they're going to roll?
History shows every time they have entered World Championship level motorsport or pinnacle motorsport, they have been unbelievably good. You've got to hark back to the 80s in the World Rally Championship where they came with this radical four-wheel drive, awesome car that still for many motorsport fans evokes this special memory even now. I'm with, during the week of F1 here in Melbourne, I'm doing a function with Alan McNish. He was kind of one of the gods of sports car racing. When Audi committed to that program, they did some unbelievable things, very memorable races at Le Mans in the United States and so on. It will take time. Formula One is the absolute pinnacle. They have great history that dates back a long way in motor racing. We just talked only about 2 things there. They will win at some point. Not straight away. It'll take a lot of learning. They've pioneered with a lot of others that have come into the sport have paired with other engine suppliers or whatever to help them get off the ground. They've done their own thing, admittedly with some framework from Sauber and some existing drivers and so on. I think that stability will help them in the background there. But as a company, the commitment that they're showing, is big, mate.
I'd love to see, like, Hulkenberg, 240-odd starts, and he got that first podium. It'd be fantastic to see him given a vehicle, a car, a team to fully display his talents. Like, he's one of the nice guys, but he probably hasn't ever had that opportunity to be in a truly elite car to really show what he can do.
You know what timing is like in elite sport, right? And sometimes you, for whatever reason, aren't placed. So when he's had those brief moments to savour a little something, we cheer because it's a huge thing. And I'm a fan of Gabby Bortoletto. He has a real deep appreciation of the history of the sport for a young man coming in. You know, he's a different generation. I love that. I reckon that's knowing that he's a proper committed athlete, but in the same breath also appreciates the history is a great thing.
The other change, new team, and that's always exciting. And it's Cadillac. So this is a massive mark. They've got an enormous history and background behind them. And they've got Bottas and Perez. So my man Valtteri always brings a bit of sizzle. It'll be interesting to see how Perez goes back. Obviously, it didn't work out with him at Red Bull, but they get the Mexican support on board. But it's a massive thing to start a new Formula One team. I was listening to Mercedes talking about it yesterday, and they said this new iteration of the engine they started working on in 2022. So that's 4 years ago.
Yep.
So Cadillac have to roll in from the start and compete with that.
Yep. So they are bringing other elements together to kickstart this to begin with.
You can't start from scratch, can you?
Correct. But, I mean, smart, Valtteri and Sergio Perez, guys with lots of experience, work with some big teams in the sport, know what's required from a people and an infrastructure, if you will, standpoint. So they'll bring that wealth of experience to that operation.
Okay. End of the year. Who has more points, Perez or Bottas?
Ooh, that's tough. I hadn't expected you to ask me that. I think Valtteri will chip away here, just quietly keep chipping away. Sergio, I feel, maybe has a little point to prove here. That may work for or against him.
You haven't answered the question.
I'll say Valtteri.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
And qualifying head-to-head?
Ooh, I'll go the other way. I reckon Perez might have just that slight little edge in those moments.
Okay, Formula One, Drive to Survive, it's taken it to a whole new audience, hasn't it? When we used to work on it, it was quite a niche sport. Now there's so many people interested. So we put out, if people wanted to ask questions, MJ here, the server blew up. So there was that many questions rolled in, so we could only get through a few. Rob from Guymere Bay. Rusty, what's Rob got for us?
Hey guys, it's Rob here from Guymere Bay. Big fan of the Howie games and Rusty's Garage. I know you've both been to plenty of Grand Prix. What's your favourite on-track F1 memory?
Domestically, Mark Webber, when he was with Paul Stoddart
The Minardi.
in the Minardi, against all odds, almost getting to a podium scenario, and that was unheard of that day here at Albert Park. Mark, when you talked to him about it privately, was actually quite nervous about it because they said, we're going to kind of stage a separate podium to celebrate what you've done here. And he said, no, I didn't finish on the podium. This is not right. I shouldn't be doing this. Ron Walker, who was around back then, and many others were like, no, we need to champion an Aussie having a great day out here. So for them to do that back then was, from memory, Darrell Eastlake was late. Darrell Eastlake was calling it, going off. How good. Yeah, really cool thing.
I think for me, my first season working on Formula One, I really had a real affinity with Jacques Villeneuve because Formula One at that stage, like I can remember Coulthard and Hakkinen at that stage with McLaren, West McLaren, that they had even corporate jackets to put on with cardboard down their sidearms. So that when they sat in the press conference, you could see the sponsors better.
Yeah.
And the anti of all that was Villeneuve because he'd come in, he'd have his baggy ass suit on at the Williams. He had, he had the dyed hair. I think he was going out with Danny Minogue at the time. So I was like, this dude, he's a little bit different. He's not your corporate character. And obviously it came down to the last race in Jerez, and I was there watching that race working, and it got to the top of the straight, and it was Schumacher versus Villeneuve for the world title.
Awesome.
And Shuey, let's be honest, he punted Jacques off, and Jacques was able to continue on, and he won the world title. And that night, Rusty, we were in a bar in, I don't know, my Spanish geography is a bit dodgy. It could have been, I don't know. It was down near Jerez, and serving drinks behind the bar was Villeneuve and Schumacher.
I love that.
And they had the race on. And when it got to the point when Shuey punted him off, everyone sort of started booing, and Shuey looked a bit sheepish behind the bar, but he took it on his chin. So Villeneuve, for me, in that moment to win the world title, that's my favourite Formula One memory. Now, Jess from Abbotsford. Come in, Jess.
Hi guys, Jess from Abbotsford here. This might be a hard one for you, Rusty, but who is your favourite F1 driver of all time?
Oh,
Hands down, the late, great Ayrton Senna. For me, I can vividly remember watching Imola the night that he died. I went and woke up my dad, who's gone now, and I said, this looks bad. And he only won 3 world titles. That's what the stats will show. But what he brought to the table back then revolutionised the sport from a training standpoint, a commitment standpoint. I would love to have known what he might have gone on to add to in terms of that tally, but I will always have a very special memory of Ayrton Senna, and I never got to in a broadcast sense, see him in the flesh. I was too young at that stage, still too early in the broadcast journey. But I've spoken with people. There's an Aussie journalist who was one of the last to interview him for a story and things like that. Yeah, got Senna for me.
Do you remember when the doco came out and you were hosting it at Crown in Melbourne and you did an amazing job? I think we were doing a story. I might have been there doing a story for RPM and you were hosting it. And then it was a phenomenal documentary, but I can clearly remember they rolled it out. And it was obviously majority was in Portuguese and there was no subtitles. And I remember the majority of the audience sitting there going, it looks good, but we're not exactly sure what's going on here.
They did an amazing job with that
phenomenal.
doco. That when they eventually got the approval from the Senna family and I think from Bernie Eccleston back then, they let him into the archives, and what they found was a treasure trove of stuff on him, mate. And they Manish Pandey, I think, was the producer of it, and James Allen told me a lot about it in the lead up, and you just knew it was done beautifully.
For me, I like sizzle. I'm all about entertainment. Lewis for me.
Yep.
7-time. Potentially controversially, let's be honest, probably should be 8-time, but anyway, we won't go into the whole situation that happened there with Max and etc. But I just love. I love getting the opportunity to speak to him, Rusty, and he doesn't talk about tyre degradation.
I'm with him on Saturday. And I'm talking with him on Saturday. And he said to me last year when we were doing a similar thing, for some reason, our crazy wildlife came up, and he said, like, man, sharks, snakes, spiders. He goes, you can have all that.
Yeah. No, he's cool. He's cool. Final question, Daniel from Hallam.
Hey guys, it's Daniel from Hallam. What's the best Grand Prix that you've been to apart from Australia, elsewhere in the world? Thanks, guys.
That's a good question.
I went with the 10 Network back in the day, the British Grand Prix, to be at Silverstone, a real heartland for the sport. I have very vivid memories of that. I've done plenty at Singapore. You and I have covered that. Been to Spain on occasion, testing down at Jerez as well. It's probably more the ones that I haven't done that I would like to do, and I'm getting to an age and stage now where I start to think about some of that stuff.
So where would you go?
I'd love to go to places like Spa, for example.
Yep.
Late in Mark Webber's career, Neil Crompton went there and spent the weekend with him, and just to see the cars through Eau Rouge and stuff. I believe the sport should have that balance still. Like, we go to these flash venues from, Las Vegas, Abu Dhabi, all this. So yeah, okay, we need that. We need that stuff. But in the same breath, you've still got to have that sprinkle of the real traditional venues that are the backbone of the game.
Well, I guess when I was working on it, I was lucky that they were the majority of those venues. So I haven't been to any of the new venues, and going with Erica and seeing you in Singapore, that blew my socks off, that Grand Prix. First time I'd seen a Formula One car at night. And there was Elton John on the Sunday night. There was a Foo Fighters on the Saturday night. There was crowded house. It was that, and the city was outstanding. So I love that. But the ones that I had the privilege of going to when I was working, like Monaco is phenomenal. Monza in the park with the Tifosi. Man. But the one you picked, I can remember clearly the first time on the Friday. So we'd rig the track during the week, was Spa. And it always seemed to be raining when I was there. And I was with a cameraman who was at the top of Eau Rouge. And the cars came up for the first time in the first lap. And I was like, oh, this is impressive. And second lap, they're going.
Yep.
And I just couldn't. It's the first time I thought, these blokes deserve every cent they get paid, because the speed that they would have.
Can't see at the top. Totally.
Blind. So Spa for me. If you get the opportunity.
Monza too.
In the park, and you can go walk around and see the old banking where they used to race, and the sort of 45-degree angle of it. Rusty, we could talk about this for ages, and I know you want to get onto tyre degradation, but I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you. Okay, we'll go 3, 2, 1. You go 3, then I'll go 3, 2, and 1 for our predictions for top 3 in the Drivers' Championship in 2026. Coming in third, according to you, Fruster,
Max Verstappen.
I've gone Max Verstappen as well.
Cool. I think just to explain a little bit there, the whole partnership, them working with Ford, but basically building their own engine, I think they're in better shape than many gave them credit for in the lead up. He's an unbelievable driver, and even if the chips are a little bit down, he doesn't sound like he's a huge fan of the new regs. He will make something of that. He's just an unbelievable competitor.
Yeah. No, I've got number 3 of Verstappen as well. So 2 in the Drivers' Championship in 2026 in second place.
Oscar Piastri.
Okay.
He'll take a step this year. I don't know, as we sit here and record this now, whether they've got the car just yet. He'll have learnt a lot out of last year as a person, and I think he will come back very strong this year because of it.
Okay. In second place for me, all the preseason talk is about the Mercedes, and if you had to back Russell or Antonelli purely from experience, you'd back George Russell. He looks like he's got Formula One world champion written over him at some stage, but who would know the changes that are going to occur? And I think it will be a development race. What we see in Melbourne could be very different to what we see in China, let alone what we see in the second half of the year.
You're in for an unpredictable 6 or so races. I think there'll be stuff here that they learn, they tidy up, whatever. That actually kind of makes Albert Park a really cool thing, mate. There'll be something here that happens. Hopefully, it's an Aussie on the podium, right? But there'll be a few things here that are a bit left of field, I reckon.
So I've got Russell in second. So your 2026 Formula One world champion,
George. Yeah, I feel like they'll have the package. A lot of people saying that they haven't completely showed their hand yet. He's definitely out to prove a point, I think. Lots have said about, where they're going to try and lure Max Verstappen there at one point last year and so on, and what sort of deal would they give George. He'll be a good leader, and he's a good leader, and he'll make the most of what they've got, and we haven't seen the best of what they've got yet.
Now, the whole of YouTube is hanging on who I'm going with, but just before I do, so you haven't got the current world champion in your top 3, Lando Norris?
That's actually a very valid point. Maybe I've gone sort of
no backtracking.
No, I'm not. So maybe there's a bit of heart in some of the answer that I've given you there. At the moment, no.
I haven't either, because I've delivered the Formula One world title, maybe 70% heart to Oscar Piastri.
Love it.
But as well as 70% heart, I think you pointed it out beautifully. I think the driver's intellect is going to need to be so high this year with all the different things. It's not just driving the car flat out.
It's those that have got the bandwidth, mate.
Yeah, and I just feel his calmness. Like he's a dead-eyed, he's an assassin. Like he's just so calm in the car. So with all that going on, I think if they give him the car, which is obviously, a massive precursor to that happening, I think he can win the world title.
He's got very good people around him. Some of that has shifted a little over summer. As I say, he'll have learnt a lot out of last year, and make no mistake, for all the cool and calm, there's deep hunger underneath there.
Well, mate, it's been a pleasure to sit down and chat with you again. We could have gone on
for ages. You don't want to talk tyres with me?
No, we're not talking any degradation. I'm telling you right now, though. The good news, though, Rusty, our special preview, this one ahead of the 2026 season, all thanks to BP, who do a magnificent job. They're the technology partner of the Audi Revolut F1 team. Now, you know what else we can thank BP for, Guru? Have a listen to this.
We've been there.
Correct. The chance for you and a friend to win one of 3 trips to be trackside at the Singapore night race.
We're friends, aren't we?
We are. My word, we are. Well, you'll be there taking invoices from left, right and centre anyway. But the chance for you to go to the Singapore race, it includes 5 nights accommodation, a meet and greet with Nico Hulkenberg.
So good.
And dinner with Greg Rust. So this is unbelievable.
No one's told me about this.
This is unbelievable.
Barry Sheen would say, what's second prize?
Correct. So entering is easy. Spend $20 or more at BP. Scan your BP rewards and you'll be in the draw to head to Singapore to hang out with Nico, watch the race, beautiful accommodation and dinner with Rusty. Perfect.
Get amongst it. Great stuff, brother. Lovely to chat with you, mate. Nice to catch up. Thank you.